Hello everyone, once again I'm Cosmic, and today in this short video I'm going to be talking about how my new video series Early Access Examination is going to work. As a critic and reviewer, I have tended to avoid early access games because they don't fit into my review format. After all, you can't really review something that isn't finished. However, at the same time, I've kept running into the same moral dilemma. Video game reviews are at the core a buyer's guide. They offer informative critique on a video game that really helps you as the consumer decide on whether the game is one, right for you, and two, worth your hard-earned cash. Now, as a critic and reviewer, I have a responsibility to my audience to protect them from bad games. So, with fully released games, that's relatively easy done. I simply put the game through my review process and see what comes out. However, with early access games, you can't do that because you stumble at the common defense of, well, it's not finished yet. At the same time, however, companies are charging consumers for these unfinished products with the lure of early access and promises of future content. So the moral dilemma that I personally face is that how can I continue to avoid critiquing early access games but claim to stand for the consumer? How can I simply stand by as shady practices go on in the early access world and not warn you as my audience? Well, simply put, I can't. Now, it should be made clear that while I am not adverse to the idea of early access on paper, especially for indie developers who wouldn't otherwise get to make their games, I am against how early access has been implemented thus far. Buying an early access game is a gamble at best, and the statistics really do support me on this view. For example, did you know that according to a report by video game research provider EEDAR, only 25% of early access games have thus far actually made it to full release? That is a shockingly low statistic. Now, according to their report, as of November 2014, there have been a total of 255 early access games released in 2014, compared to the 103 in 2013. Now, of the first 9 early access games introduced in 2013, only 3 have been released as full games. On average, games that have made the transition from early access to full release took around 6 months. But again, that's only 25% of games. That is a shockingly low statistic. Now, they also found that in most cases, players ended up actually paying a little more for early access than they would have if they waited for full release. Most releases were on average usually about $1 cheaper than their early access counterparts. Now, this report alone is pretty damning about the state of early access. We've all heard the horror stories of players getting burnt by bad developers releasing worse games and using early access as a cash grab. Early access titles, they do good and have certain success stories, and there are some good titles that do have a lot of potential. However, there are also a lot of bad ones. Now, with this in mind, and because early access games don't work with my review format, I have decided to create a series with an early access specific format that will essentially critique the gameplay that it currently has, talk about the future content, give my opinions on its current state plus how to improve it, and whether or not in its current state it's actually worth your money. Now, while I personally believe that consumers shouldn't buy early access titles, I also understand that they are going to anyway for a variety of reasons. So I think it is therefore my responsibility that I help you avoiding buying the Earth 2066s of the world. So as I say, the format is going to be simple and informative, looking at what there is to see and if it's any good, what potential it has, what's to come, well, what's supposedly to come, what the developers are promising that's going to be coming. So I hope you enjoy the new early access examination series. As always, it's in its infancy, so I'm always happy to take feedback and suggestions to improve the format. So thank you so much for watching and listening. Do enjoy the first video, which is going to be on Mordenheim, and I will see you next time.